got the it was much better than Cats reference, right?
Yes, that was
You
amazing.
guys, we are live.
Oh, okay.
Hello, everybody.
Hi.
Hi.
Howdy.
How's everybody?
Good. It's a beautiful day here in North Carolina.
It's
Cowboy?
beautiful.
Texas, it's amazing. It's a wonderful day.
Andrew and I are adjacent neighbors, so it's only like 95, so it's cool. Yeah, it's awesome.
I just had to mute the live feed because otherwise we're going to have a big old echo. Anyway, so we're here to talk about the boot camp, and thank you, Donna and Andrew, so much for spending some time with us. We did our inaugural boot camp with you. Was that in July? It feels like it was like 2 weeks ago. And now we're doing another one at the end of this month. So we wanted to pull this together to help people understand what we did, what this was for, what your expectations were going in, and really how you felt coming out of it. We have so enjoyed watching your transformations and your experience. But let's just start with Jen. Can we give let's riff off each other. I just want to give like kind of some background around why we created this in the first place.
Yeah.
And then I want to jump into our amazing guests.
Into the nuts and bolts as the case may be. Yeah. Okay, for sure. So listen, like when you look at what, Lindsay does, she is, she's a branding person. She's a LinkedIn person. She's a culture coach. She's a career coach. She is a speaker at large corporations. I mean, she's multifaceted and not just like in a Swiss Army knife way, because, I feel I love a good Swiss Army knife. But, is really good at what she does in a lot of different areas. And you guys know me, I'm Jennifer Sethry. I started Intry, which is a technology platform that helps resume writers and coaches and job seekers turn their resumes into applicant tracking system ready resumes. That's where we started. And we've done a really massive evolution over the last few months. And one of the reasons this bootcamp came to fruition was that I'm going to try really hard not to swear because I have no idea how many times this could be shared and it's probably bad form. But, there's a lot of information that people get on LinkedIn that isn't accurate, right? And I see it and I try to stay away from the fray. I try to stay away from the peeling back of, what is an ATS and people telling me to give a list of companies because, I can't do that. I can tell you what we did and what we found and why it works. But why the evolution of the boot camp came was because of a lot of the disinformation that we were seeing, and people didn't know what happened 5 years ago, what happened 3 years ago, what happened a year ago, what's changed in the last 6 months with technology and how you have to create a brand and you have to have a presence and it's a 360. And I thought, with all the amazing coaches I know, the resume writers that I know, the mental health experts, the interview experts, the people experts, the negotiating your salary, the recruiters, the hiring managers. What would happen if I could bring all these people into one spot for 2 days where we do the 360 and you come away with, with tangible assets, right? We're not talking theory. Like, you can read about theory all day long. That's great. And there's nothing wrong with that. But this is about, what do you do? And we do it with you. And there's homework that you're given. And there's questionnaires. So we get to know you because each person's different. And then we wanted to put like people together so that you can help each other. And then, kind of weave your way through this process and meet different coaches with different styles to get to, who you are. And not just like, no one is a copy and paste. Mm-hmm. Everyone is unique. And so how you talk about yourself is unique. How your LinkedIn, appear, the banners and what you say needs to be unique. But bringing that invisible thread of how all the technology applies to this, and how you message people, and how you get past job boards, and if you've done a thing and posted your resume on a job board, how you unblank yourself in that process. See, I didn't swear. I'm so proud of myself. That's where this origin story came from. And I think I can speak for everybody who was on the previous boot camp panel, and this one is like, this also brings us joy.
Yeah, I mean, this boot camp, we had a lot of fun, and I'll let Donna and Andrew talk about the fun they had, but I do want to highlight one of the points you made, Jen, and this is a very bespoke 2 days. So everybody's experience is tailored to them, which sounds kind of hard to do. But with the expertise in the room, the virtual room, there is so much talent, and we're able to pull out the necessary things very, very quickly, get you focused on the right stuff, dispel the myths, and then really kind of invite you into a vulnerable space where it's really safe for you to be able to curate your own story and really start to build your brand. And I think a lot of job seekers don't understand how important building your brand is. Entrepreneurs are forced into doing this, but if you came from a corporate background, nobody's probably ever told you that was something you needed to do. So we spend a lot of time figuring out, what is that brand? I mean, there's no better brand right there than the Data Cowboy. And that was a lot of fun. So can we start with you, Andrew, since I picked on you first?
You bet.
What was some of your expectations going into the boot camp? And after that, I'd love to hear, expectations versus outcome.
It's great that you set it up that way, Lindsay, because that's
I'm
what I had.
I'm hurting my loins a little bit.
Well, I actually had my notes laid out in that level.
Awesome.
What I walked in thinking, what I walked in expecting, I knew that I had trouble with career focus, because while the Swiss Army knife is a polite way to address a scattershot career across multiple domains and areas, I knew that I needed to find a way to focus what I was doing. So I was coming in looking for focus. I was also coming in looking for feedback. I needed somebody who could take a look at what I had to start with and give me honest yet positive, constructive criticism about what I had done and what I need to do. And the third thing I was looking for was some help in networking, because I knew that that was a challenge for me. It wasn't something I was succeeding at. So those were the entry points that I was looking for as I came in. And as this developed over the course of the 2 days, I also found a tremendous amount of benefit from the branding. That was something that was drawn out along the way. And I also had two other areas: mental health and connections. And those were two areas that I had no expectations of learning so much from and getting so much value out of. With the background that I've got and everything, mental health was, for people who needed the help. Everybody else, you suck it up and you drive on. And the discussions around that really helped me understand a lot of what I was going through personally, and has been a great value. And then that sort of icing on top of everything else were the connections. The people, not only in the cohort like Donna and others that I connected with and was able to talk with in real time about our shared and different situations and experiences, but it was also then the connections to the cadre, the people who were there teaching the courses, working with us one-on-one. And then there's a level beyond that, where once you know somebody, there's somebody that they know. And so that my network has grown quite a bit
It
since
really
then.
has. I've been watching. It's so much fun to see.
Yeah,
There's Gina.
it's terrific. And so those were just some of the quick points. I won't spend the rest of the hour talking over top of everybody, but
No, I think that was a really great recap. And I definitely want to come back to the mental health piece. But Donna, how about you share a little bit of your expectations and some of your feelings coming out of it?
Sure. I think some are similar to Andrew's. And thanks first for having me talk about my experience today. Looking for focus and feedback. I am in the job market and had been, being ghosted, thinking this is a great job for me. I'm networking, I'm doing all the right things, and then just not hearing back. And Jennifer and I were connected together. She started talking about the boot camp. I had also been toying with starting my own sort of fractional company, which is called Cultivation HR. And I was really having a bit of an identity crisis. And so I was coming in looking for, am I looking for a full-time job? Am I looking to start my fractional practice? Can I do both? And so I was looking for a lot of that focus and feedback that Andrew mentioned. I think the specific reasons for choosing the boot camp were really threefold. One, the privilege of working in a small group with exceptional coaches, experts in their field, but more importantly to me, who lead with their heart and show that compassion and that commitment. The unique software that Intry has developed to get resumes through that applicant software. And then the promise of walking away with ready products. I've been to a lot of seminars, workshops, whatever, where yes, you're hearing from experts and you're frantically taking notes or now using AI to do that. But then you're sort of left on your own to develop your own stuff. So I think the three reasons why I decided to attend, sort of together, these things are priceless. But the commitment of Jennifer and the coaches to keep the cost low, to help job seekers specifically. I mean, you guys are basically volunteering your time. Showed me a commitment to the participants that I've never experienced before. So gave it a try, honed in on a number of things, and I think have seen some amazing results. I was skeptical about what I was going to walk away with in terms of actual product. And that little mind blown emoji was well beyond my expectations.
Well, it was an absolute joy watching both of you transform and the other folks in the cohort transform. I remember at the beginning, everybody, we're a little arms across our chests, like, let's see what this is really, what did I sign up for? I hope I'm not wasting my money kind of vibe. And everyone started to soften. And our first big work effort besides the resume was really working on your story, your unique value prop. And that was where Gina and I really got to work together and hear your stories, but help you retell those stories in such a way that drove the rest of the boot camp. So that was really the nexus of your branding, the nexus of who you wanted to show to the world. And gosh, it's been a delight watching you out on LinkedIn, really kind of putting yourselves out there. And in case you didn't hear it, Donna is looking for a job right now. She's doing fractional work, but she is amazing. So if you're looking for an HR leader, you got to talk to Donna. So I'm totally hogging the floor, but I do want to talk for a moment about the mental health piece, because this was a piece, as one of the experts, I don't have experience teaching, mental health coping things. That's not in my bag of tricks. And so I was like, this is really nice that we're doing that. But the reactions from all of you and the reactions from the other coaches were so profound. And it just made me understand how necessary it was to build this that way. And the reminder of, yeah, it's you going through this job searching process, but your whole family is feeling it. And how do you handle their expectations? How do you manage your own? How do you deal with the hills and the valleys along the way of, I got to lead, and then poof, it's gone. This takes some resilience. And you guys really got some of the best advice around. So, yeah, I'll be quiet. Jen,
Well,
Gina.
I think, Lindsay, I was just going to hop in on that point. There's so much about mental health out there, which is awesome. one of the things that I found about the conversations that we had in the workshop was we were triple clicking down into, all right, what's really going on personally and in your head, and really diagnosing that. As an HR leader, I try to focus a lot on mental health with the people that I work with, but truly unique perspectives on mental health and wellness and how that fits into all of that psychology that you just talked about that surrounds a job search.
Yeah. I love that you got that. And I can't emphasize enough how important that piece has become. And, to your point earlier, Donna, of if you were going to work with any one of us for 48 hours, it'd be really freaking expensive. And we kept this cost really low because you're a job seeker. We know times are tight and we understand that. So to get the expertise of 12 people who know what they're talking about, it's intense, but it's good.
So I wanted to circle back for 1 second. And first of all, thank you guys for sharing that. But, one of the things that's really unique about what we do is how we link everything together and how it's threaded together. So I put in there, I thought it would copy and paste prettier than it did. So my apologies. But, when, we start with the unique value proposition, first there's like, hey, here's what we see happening in the market, right? And this is a challenging job market, right? And you have to, you got to go at this hard, right? This is, but looking for a job and how you want to position yourself starts with what your unique value proposition is, and laying the groundwork for that. And so what I'd like to do, Gina, and I know I'm putting you on the spot a little bit, is talk about the unique value proposition, which really is the creation of your brand. And then we can sort of weave how, we did all of those things and why it's important, and why you guys are going to hear me say this multiple times, but there was an alchemy I felt that happened, right? In the boot camp. And I think part of it was the pace, part of it was your engagement, part of it was the commitment of the coaches and the panelists, but there was this undefinable thing that I can only define it as sort of alchemy. And this is an intimate group. This isn't like you're not bringing in 25 people, right? There's maybe going to be, there's a few spots, right? Like a maximum of 10 people, right? And those spots are filling up. But, it's the beginning of it with your unique value proposition. Gina, I want to tee it over to you about that.
Thank you. So,
and welcome, by the way, back.
Sorry, my LinkedIn Live was going too at the same time.
We all did it. It's totally fine.
I had it on mute. I don't know what happened. So thank you for asking that question. Our team is carefully designed 2 full 8-hour days of curriculum from soup to nuts, I like to say. And the entire first section is about creating that unique value proposition. And a lot of us have a hard time doing that when we're sitting inside of our own jar. So it's hard to read the label when you're inside of the jar. And so our participants will be doing pre-work before they even show up on day 1. And if they're not ready, then they're not ready to have the rubber hit the road. And our participants were amazing, and huge props to Donna Brown, because we went around the room and everyone introduced themselves. And I'll never forget, because I got goosebumps. Donna says, I'm going to try something new today. And she pulled out her unique value proposition scorecard and walked us through it in just a couple of minutes. And I got goosebumps. She just completely nailed it. So for only having a couple days to really have that seep in and then show up with strangers and explain what it is that she uniquely contributes, she was already had a huge springboard into the rest of the work.
Gina, I felt so prepared just going through the pre-work. Sometimes pre-work can be very lame, but this was so powerful.
Thank you. Why don't you share a little bit more? Because I know what I know, but you're the participant who actually I mean, you have to go through a bit of a metamorphosis, like from inside out.
Yeah, I think the pre-work that got sent over was two things that helped me. One is you had to think really deeply about it and be honest with yourself. There were questions and prompts, and it built off of Intry's working personality index. I don't know, Jennifer, how you guys refer to that, but working off of that. And then focusing in on key questions that sort of went in a really logical order. Think about this, think about that. And then, giving examples of how other people may have framed, their unique value proposition. But I thought that the thinking time, along with, okay, now document your answers, think about this question, write this down, everything it started like the top of the funnel and went down, 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 down until you got to, all right, this is your paragraph. Pick from here, pick from there, write this, and how does it sound to you? And I was like, wow, all right, well, it sounds good to me. I'm going to try it out now and see how it sounds to everybody else.
Thank you for that. That was exactly the intention, is to layer those pieces of the UVP until you could get to a place where you could answer that final worksheet, because there isn't enough time. We could workshop on a UVP for an entire day plus, but the pre-work is so that you don't have to go through all the blah, blah, blah from the first couple of pages, and you show up and you're like, I'm ready to start sharing this UVP and get feedback from not only the other participants, because everyone's going through their own process and learning from each other, but also the rest of the coaches can then weigh in, because guess what? There's not one right way to do all of this. There's better ways, but there's not one right way. And so that collaboration that we had within the boot camp was, I think, what you're saying, that alchemy, Jennifer, it just took the whole entire experience to another level that we didn't entirely forecast.
I agree with that, Gina. And there was so much learning from each other. I think, there was a moment when we were working on, I believe we're working on LinkedIn headlines. And it was such a fun exercise to, what are the right words? What are the words that are going to make people stop and pause? And your headline travels with you. So we wanted it to be really compelling and not too cheeky, but a little bit provocative. And while we were doing that, in the background, our mental health expert, Anna Lang, who also doubles as a graphic designer. That's her second talent, not her first. Her mental health stuff is her first. But she was busy in the background helping to build these banners based on what we were saying with the headline, and watching everybody comment on each other's and support each other, like, oh, I love that because, or those colors are great because, or no, make it a little bit bluer or a little less coral, and that camaraderie meant that there was trust, there was psychological safety, and that is so important in going through this process. So that's one thing I was super, super proud of, that we were able to create, and that you all felt it. It was really great. So going back to Andrew, Jen, were you going to say something? You're on mute.
Shocking. I actually muted myself. I know Donna's like, oh no. So, I think, as we're talking about this, one of the things I want to make sure that, we talk about is, the technology, right? And how you network and how you interview, because one of the things that we were doing when we were pulling this together was trying to create that 360, that how can we give you what you need in 2 days, right? So that you've got a banner, you have an updated LinkedIn, you have a ATS resume. We've talked through, it's like when you're on the phone with that person, or you're doing a phone interview, or you've got 10 seconds to make your pitch, you got to make it count, right? And then everything has to be connected in how you message people, which we did, a live yesterday talking about networking and how you do that, right? So it's like there's an interconnectedness that needs to happen. And I guess I'm just curious, Andrew and Donna, from your perspective, how was that? How did that feel? And you guys have a lot of choices to spend your money and to join things. So I just would like to get your feedback from that a little bit, if I may.
Donna, do you want to?
Go ahead, Andrew.
I don't mind jumping in, but
You go, cowboy.
you sure?
Do
Okay.
it. Do
I'll
it.
keep it quick. I'm a big fan of balance. I think that there are rare occasions where the extreme is an answer. And there was a wonderful balance in the educational approach of some of the sessions where we'd start off and we'd talk about theory, concepts, some of the points that we want to hit to the group. And then there were breakout sessions where they were very focused and tight with a small group, one or two people working with a coach and directly hands-on going through materials, whether it was the headline or whether it was practicing interviewing or it was networking techniques, whatever the topic, you got both the opportunity to hear the concepts and what you should be doing, as well as actually work on them with somebody who could give you direct feedback. And to me, that was priceless, because you can go to seminars or read books or watch videos online and hear people talk about the concept, but you don't get that one-on-one feedback on how you're doing, where you should be emphasizing, what you do well, what you don't do well. And to me, that's been the most valuable thing out of it all, is being able to have somebody come back to me and say, well, Andrew, you really didn't do so hot there. How about if you do this instead? And that constructive criticism has just really paid for itself along the way.
Donna, how about you?
Yeah, I would agree with that. The candid feedback was awesome. I want to touch back to one of there was two things that I think really differentiate this boot camp. One Jen touched on a little bit ago is the 360 nature. You can get somebody to help you with your resume. You can get somebody to help you with your brand. You can get somebody to help you with your confidence. How to network. There's, tons of books, tons of people doing all of that. But starting with that pre-work that I mentioned, that really set up the whole 2 days because it was intense. But starting with that, feeding into what Andrew just described, and then bringing in the technology aspect. Jen, Intry must have competitors. I'm not aware of anybody else that's out there doing what you're doing, but
Yep.
The number of people that talk to me, and sort of reinforce my own experience of check on that job description, and then you never hear anything back and you don't know what's going on, and you're, trying to reach out for feedback. I think bringing that whole 360 new me in the job market now into a software that's going to help break through, whether it's old coding, old tech, things that we would consider stale language, as we're trying to make think is a modern resume, not knowing that, the ATS system doesn't care about your modern resume because it doesn't understand the words you're using. So
Right.
I think taking all of that and then having Intry to help us break through the technology barriers is it's an enormous differentiator.
Well, that is really nice. I mean, we started it because people were just being ghosted and you had no idea why. You spend all this time working on a resume and you think it's just about the keywords. And I'm not saying keywords aren't important. And there are competitors to Intry. And, obviously I would love everybody to use Intry, right? Because it works. And as Gina mentioned, it's patented and we spent years building it. But if it's not Intry, then use a different one, because the technology stack, literally the stack, is against you, right? And people, want to pick a fight, and they can. That's fine. This isn't the place to do it. They can reach out to me directly or whatever, and I'm happy to engage in that conversation. But Canva creates beautiful resumes, but a Canva resume isn't going to get through an ATS system, right? And it's nothing wrong with Canva. print it out, bring it to your resume or to your interview, or you can send it as an attachment. But if you're creating a resume that needs to go through an applicant tracking system software, you really need to use Intry or something like Intry, right? And that doesn't negate from the amazing resume writers that are out there. We're not in competition with them. Like, you guys saw, you met with some great resume writers. Their job is to drill down and help pull the information out of you to put on that. And then we flip it and we don't wordsmith what they did, but we make sure that it gets through on the other side. Like Intry is on the top, is a beautiful resume. I'm not saying, they're not beautiful, but they're also very technical on the things that you don't see. And that's really the major differentiation. But Intry aside, right, I think that understanding the technology and the platforms, and that, if you're doing a one-click apply, right, like, and they have the option to have go to the website and apply, always go to the website and always customize your resume for that specific job that you're applying to. A one-size-fits-all resume doesn't work because people use different words for different terms that mean the same thing. For example, like I see all the time in job descriptions, particularly marketing, which I'm not sure why, but when they say, strategic marketing, like skill set. I mean, it's a weird way to say it. And I'm like, no one would be like, I have strategic skill sets, like you wouldn't articulate it that way. And that's a bad example, because I might actually say that I have strategic skill sets in marketing, but I'm going to pull it up now just to validate what I was just saying. But like they're going to phrase things differently than you do, and then different companies do. And if you're using the same words that you got from a previous job description, even if it's for a similar role, you're going to get a lower score. It's going to be filtered more heavily, and you're not going to make it to the top. And so it's important that you do customize that, and you do wordsmith it as often as you can. And you do make sure that it's ATS formatted. Don't put a picture on it. Don't put logos on your resume. Don't, in general, have a 3-page resume, and use, traditional headings, right? ATSs are generally traditional, right? And fonts matter. And those are the things you can control. The things you can't control is the bias that's built into the technology. And those are some of the things that we talk about at the boot camp, and to be wary of, and to, if you've done some of those things, we can fix them. Like, we have the team that can fix that, and we take you through that as well during this 2-day boot camp.
Gina,
So,
what were you gonna-
yeah, if I could jump in, I think where some people have confusion is the difference between what they're trying to accomplish by submitting an online application and having your data get filtered through an ATS, versus, particularly my audience are leaders and executives, they can have a branded resume that does have some of that fancy stuff that won't track through an ATS. So you really need both, but what do you need to do before you create your resume? You need to understand all the stories that will be on the resume in the first place. So
your unique value proposition.
Exactly. And your top career results. And then, then you get that ATS friendly, as we're calling it, resume. And, most of the recruiters I know are still going to skim every application and every resume. They're going to at least skim it. And that's what most people will say. However, if you happen to be applying to a job where there's like 1,000 people applying, and they choose to use some kind of scoring mechanism to at least get a read on the keyword matches, that's where, Jennifer, I think you're talking about, like, that's where you could really bump up into some challenges if you're counting on a resume that isn't scoring well because it's not matching the terms in the job description, right?
Well, and I think to that point, Gina, the piece that I think a lot of job seekers might not be thinking about is, and I had this happen with me. I applied for a job a long time ago, and I knew I was overqualified for the job, but it said I was a 43% match. And I'm like, oh, the hell I am. I'm like a 95% match. But it was because I wasn't using the words in the job description. And so figuring out those tips, figuring out how to create job alerts, figuring out how do you want to communicate with the hiring
Mhm.
manager? How do you want to
Mhm.
show up? Networking, like this is all the stuff we talk about. And I haven't found anything as comprehensive as this out there. And I can say that proudly from your reactions, Andrew and Donna, but also just seeing the knowledge that we shared. I learned a lot, and I thought I knew a couple of things, but my gosh, the amount of stuff that everybody kind of unveiled was staggering. It was really great.
You know,
I
one thing I
love
wanted to,
Gina's what you said earlier. Hard to read the label from inside the jar. I think,
Mhm.
Lindsay, that goes for all of.
oh,
We're all experienced professionals. We've gotten
Right.
jobs before. We've done. We've got a certain amount of knowledge about some of this, but that chemistry that Jennifer mentioned, that I'm always going to remember that adage now, Gina. But everybody learned from each other and sort of built upon. We were riffing by the end of day one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
so
jar comment also resonated with me because I knew that if I had taken my resume from, let's say, early July and compared it to one from, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago, and held them up one to the other, with the only difference that you'd see between them might be a couple of years of experience added in. It was the same format, it was the same headline, it was the same just everything. It just was sort of growing geologically with a new layer on top. And I really needed somebody to come back and toss it back to me and say, no, this might have worked back in the Bronze Age, but it doesn't work now. So you need to tweak these things. You needed to change this, and don't do what you did here, because the rules have changed over time. And if you're not working with people who have their ear to the ground in the industry and in the technology, you're going to fall behind, and it will ultimately hurt you in the process.
So, what advice would you give, Andrew and Donna, to job seekers that are kind of on the fence
and
and
career
thinking,
transition. I just want to jump in,
yeah,
right? Because like
yeah,
we also had some people in the boot camp who were in career transition, and one person was in one part of their industry and they wanted to move somewhere else, and one person was sort of, like entrepreneur, going to be should I look for a job? Should I keep doing what I'm doing? So there was like, it fits a lot of different criteria. That's all I wanted to say.
yeah. What would your advice be to anyone who's thinking about it? Maybe they're on the fence. What would you say to them?
I would say to look up the profiles of all of the coaches and look at what Jennifer has done with her company and compare that to other people that are out there and what they're offering. Number one, can you find a workshop that's going to give you this end-to-end 360-degree, whatever you want to call it, complete sort of review and rework with all of that goodness and that feedback and that learning, and that you're coming out with products actually, that you're actually going to use. It's beyond your unique value proposition. You've got several new resumes, you've got a whole new LinkedIn profile, you've got a great LinkedIn banner. So go out and test the waters and see what else is going to deliver you all of that, plus help you crack the technology issue, which is real, no doubt about it. And make your choice, analytically.
Thank you, Andrew. How about you?
I'll go back to what I think I gave as my very first bit of feedback to Jennifer, uh, all the way back in July. Return on investment, ROI. Yes, this does cost money. Yes, it does take time. But if you make that investment and you go at this with everything you've got, it will yield benefits that you could not have imagined coming in the door. And at the start of all this, when today when we talked, I said I had those three elements that I was looking for: focus, feedback, and networking. And yes, I'm looking at my notes. But then there was so much more that came out of it that I walked away with that I never believed or even thought of harvesting from it. And so product, yes. Topical information, yes. Connections, yes. Mental health support, yes. Branding, definitely. All of these things came out of it. And again, that return on the investment for those 2 days, plus the time spent doing the self-analysis and pre-work that we did, has moved the needle for me so much further, so much faster than I ever would have gotten on my own. I can't begin to imagine not having done this. So my tagline, I guess, would be, do it, and you certainly won't regret it. It is an investment, and it will yield return.
Love that. Amazing. Thank you both. There was a question in the chat that said, can you talk about the services in the boot camp? So I'll rattle off the ones I can remember off the top of my head. Jen, I'm sure you have the list handy, but Donna or Andrew, if I miss any, chime in because you got to experience it firsthand. So we already talked about building your unique value prop. We talked about creating a new resume, obviously, or several ATS resumes. We talked about your new LinkedIn profile, complete with a new banner and a headline. We talked about interviewing tips and techniques, negotiation of salary. What did we say? Obviously, mental health. What am I missing? I know I'm missing.
We've got the career coaching, creating your job strategy, networking, creating drip campaigns when you're interviewing with recruiters, bringing in recruiters and hiring managers to give you guidance about what's the best way to approach them, giving strategies about how you engage with people, growing your LinkedIn brand, what you do to leverage your LinkedIn page from technology, how to make it stand out. The interview coaching and preparation, the creation of a mental health strategy to help you cope during this process. And it doesn't mean anybody is weak. It doesn't mean we're saying everybody needs, therapy. But I think the market's changing really dramatically. There've been a lot of reductions in force and being able to differentiate yourself against people that are going for the same job that you are is really important. And I think, the main thing, the takeaway is that, you're coming away with a strategy. You're coming away with, here's how to define yourself. When someone says, hey, what do? You can go, I do this. When, you're at a cocktail party or someone says, hey, what's new? You're like, I'm doing great. I'm actually in the job market and here's what I do. Do you know anyone that you could connect me with? Finding the hidden nuggets that you didn't know about yourself, and ending up with an actionable strategy, and you get the videos and you get, was 100-page book.
Oh my gosh, the follow-up material. Because the 2 days is super intense and we've got all these products and everything else. I definitely needed a recovery day, but then to have followed up with the videos and the material and everything else that, it's on my bedside table because I'm constantly referring back and writing myself notes and I need to do, this better. One thing that I loved about the content I think it was in the networking part, but just sort of defining recruiters and the different types of recruiters, what they're looking for, what they're doing, what their angle is. And then real woven through everything was, if you're using LinkedIn as a platform, here are tips and tricks to really get your brand out there and to do some great things and to start some good conversations.
I love all of that. I mean, I think the thing that I've really enjoyed the most, and then I'll jump to you, Andrew, is just watching how empowered you both feel, because it's palpable. I mean, we see you out on LinkedIn before and after, and it's like a different newborn person. And it's really fun to watch. But I mean, we're your biggest fans. We're cheering for you the whole way. And to see you out there, putting yourself out there, commenting, as Andrew said, growing so fast, That is really a thrill to see. What were you going to say, Andrew?
Well, Lindsay, to your point of being a newborn, I will say I share the same hairstyle as many newborns. But on a more serious note, I think one element that I came away with more than anything, just on top of everything, because everything we've said so far, everything Jennifer listed off, everything Donna mentioned, everything you mentioned, Lindsay, connections. Just connections, because the people who were in the group, the people who were the cadre teaching, uh, these all of us, we're still out there. We're still out in LinkedIn. We're still out in other social media. We're still presenting thoughts and ideas and connecting people, and it becomes a self-sustaining combustion almost once you get to a certain number of really good meaty connections who are thought leaders out there. They have a host of people that interact with them, and you come in and you start conversing with those people, and it
Mm-hmm.
just keeps going. And I think I've added more numerically and more value and meaning in my connections in the last month
Hmm.
than I ever have on LinkedIn.
I
And
agree.
that for me is going to be so valuable, because where I am, I'm probably not going to find a job posting somewhere that lines up exactly where I need to be. I'm probably going to be finding it through networking, getting myself out there.
That's because
And
you're a Swiss Army knife, data cowboy. I
what
mean, really.
those connections have become a force multiplier
Yeah.
like none other. I can't talk enough about that, because that was like the bonus. It's the
Mhm.
little surprise at the bottom of the cereal box. It just was not something that I had expected to yield so much value, and it just cannot be quantified.
So Jen, well, hang
Yeah.
on, Gina. I was just going to say, so if someone is interested in the boot camp, what do they do now? I'm prompting you. They click on the link.
No, sorry. I was writing something in the comments. So, but no, I mean, click on the link. What I was going to say and what I was thinking about is, like, for everyone who's attending, this may not be for you, right? But if you know someone who it would be for, like, share the information. I mean, there's the other people who attended couldn't join because they're working in organizations. So it'd be pretty awkward to be like, hey, I joined this boot camp because I'm looking for a transition and it was really awesome. So, but I think a couple people found it through someone that referred it to them, right? Because our circles are only so big. And I think part of the job search strategy and part of what we're trying to teach and educate is, you're constantly making your circle bigger, and you're being intentional about it. It's not a spray and pray. It's intentional, and it's thoughtful, and it's really going to be the things that differentiate you. And I talking about what I do sometimes is really hard. Like, when people tee up and they're like, hey, talk about Intry, I'm like, oh, what's really nothing about me? And we're like, yeah, kind of it is. You should probably talk about it. But I think sometimes talking about yourself can be hard. And when you have all of these people who are like cheering for you and like, yeah, but so what does this mean? And what does this mean? And how can I say this differently? And how can, I'm going to say person X, when I think Lindsay, this group was with you, saying, hey, you're walking into the interview, or you're getting up, and so tell me about yourself. Like, what do you do, right? That is your unique value proposition, and being able to say that and articulate it with confidence is hard. It's hard to drill down those 5 words that describe you. It's hard to define yourself as a brand. And when you are seeing, 1,000 people apply, doesn't mean you shouldn't apply, because, maybe they're reposting it. Maybe, there was a glitch. Maybe there was whatever. But being able to define those things, like, that's what all this is about. That's where this boot camp was birthed from, right? It was taking the best that we know from some of, I think, the smartest people in this space. And I don't say that lightly. Those of you who know me, I never pander with compliments. I'm a pretty direct person. And, to fill up your tool basket and not just be theoretical, that makes me crazy. Tell me what to do. I'm here because I don't know what to do. I feel like I have turned over every rock, every stone, and I'm not getting where I need to be. So how do I get there? What's the catalyst? How do I get from point A to B to C to D? And that's what part of this is. That's why this was taking all of those things and taking everything that we know about technology and keeping it current and leveraging that, right? And giving y'all the words to articulate what makes you so special and what makes you different. Because like that's our job. That's why we're doing this, right? Is to make sure that you get through the forest, man. You get to that clearing and the sun shines down and the hiring manager and the recruiter go, huzzah. This is who I've been looking for, right? That's our objective.
Agreed. So go click on the link.
Okay, it's in the comments, but I'll put it in again.
Yeah, you can't put it in too many times. Seriously,
Okay.
though, go click on the link, check it out. All of us are available if you want to chat with us about expectations, about, what would this be like for you? Please tell your friends. If you know somebody is a job seeker, anybody you see out there with that little green banner, we would love to help them. And listen, this is a hard position to be in. Nobody wants to be without a job, and it's stressful. Get some people to help hold your hands and guide you through all of the parts of this process, because there's not just one. It's not just a resume. It's not just your LinkedIn profile. And you might think you had the most badass network ever, but all of a sudden it's crickets. So how do you deal with that? So there's just so many elements to this that Jen really thought through when we built this, and now we're coming on our second one. So we learned a lot. We know there's some things we don't want to do anymore. We know some things we have to really magnify. But it is a cadre, as Andrew would say, of experts that are like none other. Like no other, like none other, like no other, no other.
You're good. You're good. You're perfect. So
are there any other questions?
I was just going to say that. You're in my head again. Oh my God.
I do that. I don't see any others, but.
All right. So you guys, listen, we're happy to help. Andrew and Donna, can't thank you guys enough for joining us in being part of this and being vulnerable. This is a vulnerable thing to do, asking you guys to put yourselves out here and talk about what it is that you did. That was really courageous and strong, and we appreciate it. And you doing this is going to help other people. It's going to lift other people up, and it's kind of inspirational, right? Like Lindsay said, it is. I'm not pandering. It's, this is a tough market, and to give yourself the best tools possible that you can in the shortest period of time with the best return on your investment that we can possibly give you and open up our networks to you is, that's why we're doing this.
You need a village.
And I'm happy to share. I really am. I
sure.
felt like I got so much value out of this that, if people do have questions, they can reach out to me. I'm usually behind the keyboard here looking for the next, thing to pop or chasing down the next person. So
yeah, we received a real gift, and we definitely want to make sure that we're, passing along our experience. And I think one last thing before, you guys close it is sometimes you say, I wish I had known then what I know now. Well, come and figure out what you've been doing wrong, because, as Andrew, I think you said about, your crusty old resume, but there were so many things I was like, if I had known this when I applied for that job, maybe there would have been a better outcome. But now going forward, I've got a plan. I'm set. I've got my village, and I'm moving forward.
So before we close it out, I want to give you guys a platform, if you want to say what it is that you want. And there's going to be a lot of people that see this.
Yeah, what are you looking for?
What
What
can
are
we
you
do for you?
targeting? Let's hear it.
All right, I'm going to kick off. So I'm Donna Brown, culture builder, talent cultivator, creator of great places to work. My career in HR and technology leadership has been startups, early stage global enterprises, where I help companies meet market demands and build inclusive, high-performing workplaces where people thrive. I have also started fractional practice. So in addition to looking for full or part-time, if you have questions, any kind of HR needs, from the strategic to the, I need a mentoring program, reach out to me. I'm happy to help.
Awesome. All right. Good job.
Cowboy.
Now I'm so wishing I'd gone before Donna. That is rock solid, and I still struggle to quite get to that level, Donna. I'm
I don't believe
always
that.
tipping the hat to you.
Oh,
Um,
thank
my name is
Gina.
Andrew. Well,
Thank
I'll give
Gina
it a
and the
shot.
pre-work.
I'll give it a shot. My name is Andrew Gibbs. I'm the data cowboy. I've branded myself this way because I've had a career in both the IT world, working directly with data, and in the world of accounting and finance, where that data is created. And over the course of my career, I've seen a very distinct need for people to understand the value of that foundational data and its quality. It affects everything we do, every system you have, whether you do basic reporting all the way up to the latest and greatest AI. If you ignore that data, you'll pay the price for it. So I'm here to help people wrangle that data, get it into the structure, the format, and the quality that they need, and bring it forward so it meets their business problems that they're facing. So I'm the data cowboy. I'm eager to talk to people. If I say what I want more than anything is to connect. I want to connect with people and talk to them about what they're facing and how I can help. So please reach out to me, the Data Cowboy.
Mic drop, you guys. Fantastic.
Well done.
Take that.
All right.
Doug.
Awesome. All right. So everyone who's here, we do have one request from y'all, and that is that if you repost this to your networks so other people can see it, we'd really appreciate that.
You bet.
That's
You
it.
bet.
You guys have any questions? Feel free to reach out to us directly.
And we have a live tomorrow too, right?
We do. It's talking about creating your brand.
Yeah.
So if this wasn't too much, come back tomorrow for more. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you so much, everyone.
All right.
Have a great rest
Thank
of your
you.
day.
Bye, guys. See
Take
ya.
care.